Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another Friday. This time we're in June. Seriously, where's the year gone? As always, if you are there, please do type a hello in the comments so that I can be very well mannered and say good morning to you. Sitting here with the rain pouring down outside in southern England today. Good morning, Rachel. We've had a week of lovely, beautiful sunshine. This morning, rain and more rain. However, the garden's looking good, so, Good morning, Maria. Good morning, Annette. Yes, it's a bit dark and dreary here this morning, but, we're here. We're functioning. We're upright. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Jay from sunny Cornwall, beautiful part of the world. Good morning, Petronella. Good morning, Christine. And good morning, Christine. Good morning, Jane. We do have an Eric today. This little black thing down here is all snuggled up under his blanket. Pixie Pete's at the dentist. He'll probably wander past at some point when he returns. Good morning, Poppy. Poppy says, I love the rain, so very happy to wake up to it. It's nice. The garden appreciates it, that's for sure. But, when you want to hang the washing out, not so good. But it is very refreshing, very cleansing, definitely. Good morning, Kay. Good morning, Karen. Finally got a Friday morning off to tune in live. Yay! Good morning, Deborah. Usually at work and have to watch later. However, I'm off work this week. Yay! Good morning, Helen, who's also off work this week. Good morning, everyone. Petronella says he likes his blanket no matter how warm it is, right? Yes. He likes to bury under the blankets. We're never very sure how he does it because sometimes he moves around in the night and moves to a completely different spot, but still manages to burrow under lots of blankets. Yeah, he does like to hide. Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Denise. Making coffee for the team before starting work. Good on you, Denise. Good on you. Everyone's saying good morning, Eric. But not to Pete because he's at the dentist. It is June. We are in June, which is completely mad. It's been a difficult week. Definitely a difficult week. Good morning, Jackie. We lost the very lovely Stacey, Storm Lover Wolf, this week, and it has been very difficult. Trying not to cry because that would be really embarrassing. So we're reeling a bit from that at the moment, but we are working on something to celebrate her life. So watch this space. For those that don't know, it was one of the Kitchen Witch Hearth Guardians and one of my very, very long time friends. So I think this morning is about actually being glad to be alive, basically. No matter what the issues are or what the problems are, I'm very glad to be able to sit here and talk to you guys this morning. So let's move on because otherwise it'll be a soggy mess. Would you like me to cover you up properly? Yeah. And for anybody that wonders, it's a High School Musical blanket. He likes to make holes in his blankets. He likes to drag them across the floor and chew holes in them. So he's got lots of old blankets. So that was one of our old teenagers' blankets. Good morning, Karen. Thank you, my lovely. Thank you, Kay. Christine, star shines brighter now. Yes, absolutely. Love your video about your garden. Yeah, the garden's come together really well this year. Actually, very, very pleased for it. Very pleased. Maria says it had to be used for something. The High School Musical blanket. Yes, it was our eldest. She loved High School Musical. Not so much now. She's 20, but so she didn't mind donating her blanket to Eric, who's sighing underneath it. Bless him. So this morning I did kind of focus on the garden because this week, particularly with the sunshine that we had and the rain the roses have really come into their own. I mean, we only have a teeny tiny garden, but I think we've got nearly 20 roses in it, something like that. It's a little bit mad. There's a few of them there, look. Good morning, Gillian. Kay says, good bit of recycling the blanket. Yes, we have. Eric has quite a collection of the children's old blankets. We have Union Jack ones and Transformer ones, bright pink ones. Rachel says, didn't expect the rain. Had to towel dry. Oh, a very wet bunny who insisted on going on a garden exploration. Fantastic. Fantastic. Before we had children, we had house rabbits. We had 4 house rabbits that used to just hop about in the house. So I know what you're talking about, Rachel. Good morning, Eva. On the way to get your second jab. Mine is on, my second jab's on Monday, Eva. So excellent, excellent. So yes, I looked out in the garden and I thought, do you know what, with all of these roses, that's what I need to talk about. And I think probably a lot of us are very familiar with using rose petals, particularly in air workings, but there is so much more to it. And it is a huge group to be working with and such a beautiful plant. I love it. Absolutely love them. Well, with the fact that we've got something like 20 different ones in our garden, from patio roses through to climbing roses. We have quite a variety of them. I also have an oracle card of rose to share with you as well, oracle wisdom. I think the rose particularly, Kay says, great subject, what about peony petals? Peonies do look quite a lot like roses, don't they? We'll stick with roses today and we'll work on the other ones later because it's such a huge subject. Denise, no roses in my garden, just 3 beautiful peonies, which I'm drying some of the flower petals. Obviously, it's a peony day as well. Beautiful, beautiful flowers. They don't really like the soil in their garden. We have tried, but they don't really like it. But the roses obviously do. And I think roses do cover so many things, not just the typical general magic of the rose, and I will cover that in a second, but you can bring in colour magic as well, because they come in so many colours. You can work in the colour magic as well. Eva says, rose are my favourite flower, both my middle name and my first tattoo. Excellent, excellent. You don't need to apologise, Kay. All suggestions of talk and all questions and all comments, absolutely welcome. This is an interactive chat. Just looking down. Yes, rose's favourite flower. Funnily enough, I think it was Gardeners World a couple of years ago. They did a big nationwide competition to see what the favourite flower was for Great Britain. And the rose came out on top by far and away, far and away. Jane says, peonies always seem to come and go in this half-term week. If you dare to go on holiday, you miss them. I have, on our evening walks, we have since out and about when we've been in the front gardens of people. Maria, I put some of the fallen petals as an offering on my altar. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Christine, I have a rose named after me. It's called Chrissy. It has big blousy flowers of yellow with a hint of pink, and some branches of it have thorns and some without thorns. Completely crazy, just like me. But sounds absolutely perfect, gorgeous and beautiful, Christine, just like you. Perfect. Good morning, Melody. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Jackie. Welcome to A Morning of Roses. I think as well, roses, if you can work with the different general meanings of roses and the different colours. But I think as well, they are really good for memorials. They are good for memory of people. They are good as gifts for specific things, to mark ceremonies or points or transitions, if you like. We've just bought a new one, actually. We lost my mother-in-law earlier this year, so we have planted a rose in the garden in her name, It has got a name, and I'm going to look up there because it's written up there. Harry Edland is the actual type of rose, but we've just called it Nanny. So we have a rose plant in our garden called Nanny, but we have them for the children as well. We have a climbing rose called Big Ben. We have a bush rose called Lady Emma Hamilton for our son and daughter. We have a rose called Ice Cream for our son-in-law-to-be. It's his favourite food. We have one for me, which is called Rachel, which is actually one of the ones in the back there. And we have one for my husband called Penny Lane, because he loves music and he likes the Beatles. We don't have one for Eric, actually. Perhaps we should get you a rose. Obviously, he needs a rose. And I will be getting one for the very lovely Stacey as well to put in the garden. So I think they're really good for, we've given them as gifts for wedding anniversaries and things as well. I think they're really good for marking rites of passage as well. Maria says, I only have one rose plant called Sharon. Excellent. Excellent. Rachel, I have just one rose. Beautiful yellow. Flowers have not opened yet. It's in the shade. Never been a big fan of them, but I'm beginning to appreciate them more now, and I'm looking to get more. Any recommendations on a climber? We have several really nice climbers, Rachel. For a really dark red one, Dublin Bay is an excellent climber. For a really pretty pink and white one, we have Handle, which is beautiful. We also have Big Ben, which is a lovely creamy colour, creamy peachy colour. Penny Lane is sort of whitey pink colour as well. They're all really good. They are lovely. It depends what colour you are. If you want a climber though, and you've got not a huge amount of space, do look just for a climber. If you've got a huge area to fill, then look for a rambling rose, because they take over the world. Karen says you should name a rose a kitchen witch rose. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? That'd be absolutely brilliant. Kay says, my aunt gave me a beautiful golden yellow rose with orange edges for my 60th. Brilliant. Absolutely gorgeous. See, they are really, really good plants for marking rites of passage, definitely. Good morning, Lani. Jane says, I just love peace roses, the yellow ones with the red tinge that gets redder as they open out. The scent is just sublime and reminds me of my granddad's raised bed full of peace roses when I was a kid. My granddad had a garden full of roses too. Maria says, my climbing rose hasn't begun climbing yet. Come on, climber, get on with it. Jackie, I lost my mum a couple of months ago. Sending you much love, Jackie. And bought a rose called Pink Peace. They are lovely to mark a special person, aren't they? Definitely. Jackie says, every pet we lost and buried in the garden has been given a rose bush. Perfect. They really are good, aren't they? I think that's Pete coming home. Rachel, my dad has Handle. It's beautiful. Oh, it is. I have to say, Handle is one of my favourites. Let me grab the flower and I can show you. I can show you more in detail. That's Handle. It is absolutely beautiful. I think that's one of my favourites actually in the garden. It is one of my favourites. Absolutely beautiful. Christine says, Mum always loved Whiskey Mac. Well, I don't mind a Whiskey Mac on occasion too. We all knew she was a sneaky drinker and used to disappear into the pantry. She came out with a red nose. Oh, brilliant. Yes, and yeah, that's Eric going to... No one there? No? He's very protective. Eva, what time of the year is best to plant roses? You can plant bare root roses, which don't come in a pot. They just come as twigs, basically, with bare roots in the autumn. We have planted some in the last few weeks because when we buy a new rose, we really like to see the colour of the flower, because sometimes the pictures can be a bit deceiving. So I would say late spring or autumn. But, you know, garden centres sell them all the time. So do leave them, though. Don't move them about. They don't like to be disturbed too much. And they do like a bit of space around them as well. Xenia says, I really love roses and I wish people would more often plant roses with this scent. That's also the thing that you might want to do if you are buying roses, is to check out the scent, because quite a lot of the hybrid ones, the modern ones, the scent's not there. They look beautiful, but they don't smell of anything. So worth checking them out. Karen says, I got that rose, didn't know what it was called. Okay, funny. Come on, get on with it. Yeah, I like that with my seedlings. Come on, get on with it. Grow. Kay says something similar. You can either grow or not. 50-50, up to you. Luckily, I seem to have green fingers or lots of plant fairies. Yeah, I do love my garden. Do love garden. Maria says we should plant or buy a rose for Storm. We will, Maria. She actually asked us some time ago now to plan a passing over ritual for her. So I have all of that. Can't read it at the moment, but give me a few days and I will. But she did ask us to plant a plant in her honour, so we will be getting one specifically for Storm, definitely. I'll put pictures up when we've done it. Eva says, I agree. Best part of roses are the scent. Yeah, the smell. The scentless ones are a travesty. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's all showy and blousy, but doesn't actually smell. Although, yes, as Kay says, no scent is better for hay fever sufferers, definitely. Jane's just been telling my sulking tomato plant off for daring to wilt. How dare it? Yeah, I've been talking to the mandrake seed that's been planted for months and hasn't grown yet, but there you go. So I think rose is brilliant for so many things, and you can work with it magically. But in the garden, it's brilliant for memories, really, I think, as well as bringing all kinds of colour. Christine says, cut a piece about 10 inches, then put it into a plant pot with good compost and you'll grow your own. Yes, and sure, no leaves and flowers on the piece. If it goes black, bin it, but always try again. Let's become a rosebush group. That would be cool. They do, don't they? You can propagate roses quite easily by doing that, cutting a piece and just planting it in a pot with good compost. We actually have one huge climbing rose that was found as a seedling. I'm assuming the birds dropped it from one end or the other. And it was a tiny little seedling, and I realised it was a rose, so we let it grow, and it's now about 8 feet high with beautiful clusters of white flowers on. So do look out for gifts from Mother Nature as well. We also bought a tiny little standard rose, a little yellow thing, very cheap from a supermarket, very sorry for itself. It never really did anything until we noticed a shoot coming off of it. So we let the shoot grow, and the other shoots that kept coming off of it as well, they were coming from the actual trunk of it. The little top part had been grafted on. So we ended up getting rid of that and letting the actual stem of it grow. And it's now probably about 10 feet high and probably about 12 or 14 feet long. It's climbed all along the fence and it's absolutely covered in white roses. And that was from a little standard one that we let do its thing. And it paid off. So never give up on things. Maria says, worst part of the aphids, ants and black fly. We actually have a garden now where we don't use any pesticides. We stopped doing that some years ago now. We struggled at first, and we used a bit of washing up liquid in water in a spray bottle to get rid of the green fly, particularly on the roses. But we've even stopped doing that now. And for the last couple of years, we actually seem to have found a balance where we encourage the birds to come into the garden. The birds now eat the aphids on the rose bushes. So we've got a nice, fingers crossed, balance. We've got a nice balance between nature. It's doing its thing. The birds are eating the aphids, and it's all eco-friendly. Lucky, really. Jackie says, the generous gardener is a climber with a wonderful scent. Excellent. I don't know that one. I'll just look that one up. Jane says, not enough ladybirds around to pick them off. No, I haven't seen a lot of ladybirds in the last couple of years. They seem to be in short supply. Christine says, cut just below a bud at the bottom and cut above a shoot for the top. Yeah, give it a try. Definitely give it a try, people. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you, Christine. That's good advice. Kay says, my nan had a beautiful selection of roses in her garden, and as a kid I made homemade perfume, soaking petals in water. No, it doesn't keep its fragrance for long, but fun to do. Maria says, I have no ladybirds here. No, I haven't got many either, Maria. I don't know why. Sad, really. Let's hope they come back. Hello, Peter Pitts. Best husband ever! Look! He's been to the dentist and bought me back a caramel latte. You get a gold star today.
You may have lunch too.
You bought lunch too. Look, people, you need to, every home must have a Peter Pixie. You can go to the dentist more often. Excuse me. Actually, I have to share it. To be fair, there's someone else here that shares my coffee. Just talk amongst yourselves for a while. What's this, Eric? He likes to lick the lid. Oh, now you've got coffee foam on your nose. Okay. Sorry about that. Little bit of an interlude. Anyway, back to roses. Thank you. Karen said, I left some seeds growing. The birds must have dropped waiting for it to flower. My eldest came round and asked me why had I got 3 marijuana plants growing in my garden. Why have you, Karen? Really? Christine says, garlic tea or vinegar, or have a feverfew in the garden to attract ladybirds. I have read about the garlic water as well, steeping garlic in water or vinegar and spraying that as well. Jane says, Eric's heard Postman Pete. Yes. Kay says, Eric's doing his job very well. Yes, you are a good guard dog, aren't you? Yeah. Useless at everything else, but Lani says, my dad has a plant in his garden that he has had for a while and had no idea what it was. So I used my plant app on my phone and discovered what it was, and it ended up being a Sicilian honey garlic, a species of onion. Wow, well, if you're going to have something that you don't know what it is, have something that's a bit unusual like that. Excellent. The plant apps are really good though, aren't they? Rachel says, the sparrows love picking the aphids off my rosebuds. It is lovely to watch them, isn't it? To watch them sort of, they land on the rose branches, and then the rose, some of them can't hold them very well and they end up hanging upside down. But yes, I'm very, very thankful that we've reached the stage where we don't have to use any pesticides because nature does its own thing. Yes. Xenia says, Eric is totally excited. He does get very excited when we come home. Yeah, Melody, we all need a Peter Pixie, that's for sure. Jackie says, my son just asked why you're called the kitchen witch, but you're never in the kitchen. Because the kitchen's very small and dark. Hopefully, she says, at some point in the next few months, this whole room that I'm sitting in now will become an open plan kitchen. And I will be able to sit in the kitchen and do my videos. So fingers crossed. Kay says, oh my gosh, one year I had an attack of ladybirds. They were everywhere, including inside the car. Literally hundreds of them sitting on and in my car. Wow. Yes, Jackie, caffeine dog. He only licks the foam off the top of my latte. I'm not feeding him coffee. Melanie says the blue tits do that. Yes, we generally just get sparrows in your garden. We don't get a lot of other birds, chaffinch occasionally, but generally sparrows. But they do the job. Definitely. Right, gonna have coffee, sorry. Oh, that's good. Anybody that lives near Southsea, baffled. Absolutely brilliant cafe. They've got a kiosk on the seafront and they've got a cafe in Fawcett Road. Highly recommended. And it happens to be right next to the dentist. Result. So, Roses, let's have a look at them. They bloom between May and September. Although, to be fair, air seasons are so mad. Some of theirs were still flowering in December last year. And of course, you've got the petals, but don't forget the leaves. The leaves of roses have the same magical powers as the flowers. And don't forget the thorns, because the thorns are really good for working magic with as well. And then, of course, the rose hips afterwards. So they have got so much to offer. You can use the petals fresh, or you can dry them. It's really easy. I just sprinkle the petals, lay them out on kitchen paper on a tray, put them in the conservatory. So really, really easy to do. Jackie's just laughed. Maria says that's what puts me off buying the aphids and things. If you can encourage birds in as well, Maria, that you have to struggle through the bit where it's a bit touch and go, but at some point there will be a very nice balance. But definitely the washing up liquid in water works quite well, as does the garlic in water for getting rid of aphids. Christine says, does the new kitchen mean you'll be doing cooking demos? Your cakes, biscuits look so good. Well, you never know, Christine. You never know. At the age of 50, nearly 53, I'll be finally getting a kitchen that I have designed myself. So I am very excited. But yeah, there's all sorts of other things that have to be in place first. So it'll be a while yet, but very excited. Kay's now going to have to make coffee. It's your fault. Yeah. Caramel latte for me, this one. Jane says, my son's a BT engineer and he found a whole colony of ladybirds living in a box at the top of a telegraph pole. They were the invasive harlequin variety. I wonder if they were attracted by the energy of electricity. Interesting. Xenia says, reminds me of having to visit one of the rose gardens in my town. Again, if you are local to me, Southsea Rose Garden is always beautiful. Hi, Teresa. A few years ago, I took a picture of a red rose in my mum's garden in the middle of February with snow surrounding it. It is. Mother Nature's gone mad at the moment. We've got summer bedding plants that survived from last summer right through the winter. They're still flowering now. It's mad. Denise dries the flowers in the greenhouse. Yep, laid on kitchen paper. It's perfect. Kay says, I think you can make gardening essential oil mixtures for bugs. That will be an interesting idea. Karen says, I spray with milk and water for black spot on roses and other leaves. Oh, I haven't heard that one. That's interesting, Karen. Thank you. Jackie says, are aphids green flies? Aphids is a kind of collective term, Jackie. You don't have to apologise for not being very green-fingered. We're all learning stuff all the time. Aphids is a general term for green fly, black fly, white fly, basically all the nasty little critters that eat your plants. What's the matter with you? So that's just a general term for all the different ones, Jackie. Christine says, my mum's ashes are scattered in a woodland and we visit her and sprinkle rosebuds all over the place. It's the woods that she used to run naked in as a young girl. Ooh, she was a sassy lady, Christine. But yes, that's a really lovely idea. Really lovely idea. And Maria just wants me to try and say a really complicated word. So Maria has been spraying them and used diatomaceous earth, but that will kill other insects. And also the day I decided to use the powder, it began pouring down, so obviously it didn't work. I would keep it simple, Maria. Use your normal compost, plant your plants, encourage the birds into the garden, and if the green fly get too much, spray them with washing up liquid and water. Lani, I see a trip to Portsmouth with coffee and roses. Sounds like a plan, Lani. But I think roses too. You guys are brilliant with all your comments. I haven't even started working through the magical stuff for roses. They are brilliant. They are brilliant for all things. I think the rose is a very good plant to represent the goddess. I think particularly for me, a white rose. is really good for the goddess. If you work with the phases of the goddess, then I think perhaps the white rose for maiden works very well. But I think in general, white roses just kind of embody the whole idea of the goddess and spirituality and faith for me. I think it works particularly well, but that's just me. I think the rose as well is also very good to work with for the mother stage of the goddess. Just kind of popped into my head, but the rose hip afterwards would be really good for crone magic too. So you have got the stages there, and of course thorns I always associate with the crone as well. I think roses as well are very good for working with when you're working with mysteries, trying to delve into mysteries of anything. And of course the rose is all about love. Archetype, isn't it? The red rose is all about love. But I associate the red rose with the kind of passion love, and then pink roses with more gentle family friendship kind of love. Yellow roses I associate with friendship and happiness. So you can work with the colours of them and how the colours work for you. Jane says, roses are ruled by Venus, so good for matters of the heart. Absolutely. They're ruled by Venus and the moon. So you've got a double whammy of emotions and heart and intuition and all of the psychic power, divine connection kind of thing. Definitely very good for all of those. I think as well they're good for working with for knowledge and wisdom. Rose petals as well, really good for any kind of dream work. And as they are ruled by the moon as well, really good for working with moon magic. They have got so many different uses. Christine says, I used to have a huge white rose, but we dug it up as a wall was being built. We now have a little pond and have the rose root and tall shoot laid down for the beetles, bugs and frogs dive board. Excellent. Excellent. I love it. Kay had lavender colour roses in my wedding bouquet. They are quite traditional in wedding bouquets, aren't they? They are beautiful. I had gerberas in mine. All different bright colours. But roses as well, long associated with love. But I think any kind of love magic, whether it is passion, friendship, relationships, love, self-love, any kind, it covers that whole scope of love. And then white, I think, for peace, yeah, works for me anyway. So I think colour magic particularly. Jane says blue moon roses would be great for magic. They would be fantastic, wouldn't they? Because they tie in, not that they're actually really blue as such, but they would definitely tie in with the moon magic side of it. And I think that as well, because there are so many different roses and because they've got such a huge variety of names, you could tie the name of the rose into your magical working as well. That would work really well. And of course, the thorns on a rose are really good to use in protection spells. I also use the rose thorns to inscribe and engrave symbols and sigils on candles when I'm doing any kind of magic where it needs candles inscribed. Jane says, mauve moon, yeah. Lilac moon magic. I do like, it's funny, isn't it? Quite a lot of the plant names, they name things and it's a black rose or it's blue rose, or even other plants where they say this is red and it's not actually, it's a completely different colour. I think that's why when we buy roses, we like to actually see them in flower before we buy them, because the pictures don't often tie up with the actual colour of the plant. But yes, Jane, I think they would be brilliant for working moon magic with particularly. I also think the rose is a really feminine flower. I think it has a really strong punch of feminine energy. It's also ruled by the element of water and the sign of Pisces. So you bring in that whole moon energy and all of the characteristics that has with it are kind of backed up by Pisces and water and the feminine energy. It kind of all layers it up. Good morning, Teresa. So definitely a very feminine plant. Diane says, to be worth a place in my garden, a rose has to have a great fragrance as well as looking pretty. Yep, got to have the complete package, I think, hasn't it? So yes, thorns I use as well for all kinds of things, but protection comes to mind particularly with that. Rose also has a connection with death and rebirth, and I think for me that's where the crone side of it comes in. The plant appearing to be dead during the winter, because let's face it, roses look like just sticks during the winter. But of course, then in spring, it starts to come to life. So it's got that whole death and rebirth cycle to it. So excellent for working any kind of magic with death and rebirth, and with the other world really as well. Kay likes rainbow roses, easy to make. Split the stalk in 4 and place each stalk in 4 different coloured dyes, which I think the rose starts out as white. Leave for a few days and boom, rainbow. I have seen them. I do think it's a very clever idea, but I must admit I'm all for sticking with the natural flowers. But if you need it for something in particular, that would work very well, definitely. I think rose petals sprinkled in your bath water are a really good idea. They are relaxing, they are calming, they can bring about balance as well. Use rose petals in any working for luck and abundance. They bring that whole energy with them. Excellent for casting circles, particularly if you're doing a hand fasting. Fresh rose petals for a hand fasting to cast the circle are brilliant. But any kind of circle casting, you can work with fresh rose petals or dried ones. You can press the petals into the side of candles to add their magic to them. If you've got dried rose petals, you can crush them and then dress your candle with essential oil and roll the candle in them. That kind of adds another layer to your magic. Very, very useful. There is all kinds of work. You can even make beads with rose petals. It is in one of my books. One of them, can't remember which. But you actually make beads out of rose petals and string them into jewellery. You can do, rose hips are brilliant for itching powder. That's what we always used to do, rose hips, when we were kids anyway. Split them open and use the insides for itching powder. You didn't hear that here. Rose hips can be dried and they can be strung up for particularly, I think, protection charms to hang in your home. Jackie says it makes great tea. Yes, it does make great tea. Okay, haven't had a rose petal bath yet, but always wanted to. It is a very nice thing to do. You do have to clean the bath out afterwards because all the petals get stuck in the plug hole. But it is a very nice thing to do. Maria says, I have rose petal tea, not my own bought. Yeah, I must admit, it's not one of my favourites, so I don't actually make rose petal tea particularly. I do use them more for magical working. Christine says a rose petal herb bag in the bath is lush and great to use before ritual. Yes, and also far more practical, because if you put the rose petals in a little bag and hang it under the tap, you don't have to fish them all out of the plug hole. Maria says cough syrup. Yes, you can make cough syrup out of rose hips, which is very good. Jane says dried rose petals and buds are great in homemade bath bombs. Indeed. The dried petals and buds I use in witch bottles, spell pouches, in incense blends. I also grind them up to make sachet powders. I think the dried petals are more useful in that type of application. But I do put fresh rose petals on my altar. I do often have fresh roses in a vase on my altar as well. And we've cast circles with rose petals at quite a few of the kitchen witch rituals. Xenia once bought a rose marmalade jam. It was lush. Now that does sound nice. Karen, we still have dried rose petals from the circle and confetti from our hand fasting, which you led for us. And it was my absolute honour, Karen. It was one of the most amazing hand fastings I've been to. Star Wars themed hand fasting. Absolutely unique, and such a beautiful day and a beautiful spot. It was amazing. They come out on our anniversary each year. 2 years this July. Is it really? Oh, that's mad. That's absolutely mad. And you guys both looked absolutely stunning. It was a very, very lovely day. But yeah, perfect for hand fastings. And yes, as they're dried, you can save them, can't you? You can keep them. I actually have a little rose that has been pressed for many years, dried and pressed. It's looking a little worse for wear now, but from one of the first bouquets that Pixie Pete bought me. We've been together 29 years this year, and there have been lots of flowers over the years. And I have some dried roses from those, some of those very first ones. So they are lovely to keep, and they hold the memories too, which is brilliant. Kay says, just thinking, since joining this group, I have a need now for more storage boxes. Yes, yeah. We're kitchen witches. It's all about saving what you have to hand. It's all about, oh, we love anything that's for free. So yes, I save all the rose petals. I dry them. If it's not been a good year for the roses, that's a song, isn't it? What's that one?
Elvis Costello.
Elvis Costello, thank you. Our whole house revolves around song lines. If it's not been a good year for the roses, you can dry the leaves. They work really well as pressed things as well, particularly if you're sticking them into candles and things. And thorns, so, and the rose hips. So you've got a whole store cupboard of things from just one rose plant. And all for free. So definitely worth having. Good morning, Willow Moon, late turning in. It's all right, I won't make you stand in the corner. Colours of roses, meanings, yeah, absolutely. I work a lot with colour magic, so I always use that in with my roses. Maria says there's a Greek cordial made from roses, and it's very sweet and syrupy that I used to love when I was younger. Yes, they use a lot of rose syrup, don't they, in their sweet pastries. Yum. You do have to be careful. It's a bit like the flavour of lavender, though. Rose syrup and lavender syrup. You have to be careful that things don't end up tasting of soap. Karen says we have some of the dried petals in the box frame mounting our hand fasting cords too. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Karen says the Caldy Island monks always made rose water and creams, which I always loved from being little. Brings happy memories of time spent with my great aunt and uncle and their daughter who lived just outside Tenby. Brilliant. I do actually have a body lotion that's got rose water in it from Caro's Creams, and it smells lovely. Christine says it's our 30th anniversary of us meeting in 2 days, so might get a rose to gift as a memory. Oh, perfect. And congratulations, Christine. In this day and age, that is some achievement. So congratulations to you both. Definitely warrants a little gifty, I think. Kay says, I've pressed the petals and adding them to my journal on a loving day or a healing day. Yes, pressed. Oh, thank you, Elvis Costello. We like him. Pressed petals and leaves work really well in your book of shadows too. Definitely. So lots and lots of uses for the rose. Let's have a list of them. So love, psychic powers, healing, luck, protection, peace, mysteries, knowledge, dreams, friendship, death and rebirth, and abundance. So really a whole variety of things. Willow Moon says rose is of the apple family and apples are for love and fertility, so roses give double loving. I think they are a really good all-rounder. For me, if you're only going to keep a handful of magical ingredients, then rose has to be one of them because it covers so many things. With all the different colours, you bring in the different colour magic energies, and with all of the intents that the rose petals and leaves cover, and then add in the thorns and the rose hips as well. It's a complete all-rounder. There isn't anything really that it doesn't cover. you've got the whole love, healing side of it. You've got the whole protection, knowledge, dreams, friendship, the whole thing as well. Thorns as well are really good for breaking hexes. So it covers a whole truckload of stuff. So it's definitely a good all-rounder to keep in your magical box. Hi, Vanessa. Think Turkish Delight. Yes, that's flavoured with rose. Yes, I do like a bit of Turkish Delight, preferably covered with chocolate, obviously, because, you know, why not? But yes, it's got that kind of scent to it. Jane says, Turkish Delight could do the rounds at Cakes and Ale time in the appropriate ritual. It could indeed. I like your thinking, Jane. Makes a note of that one. Definitely. So we have used roses in our rituals. You could use different colours or types of roses to represent the elements as well. In a Christine says, no, that was a hint. So he's just bought me coffee and lunch, Christine, so I'm very happy with that. He is a good lad. So I don't want to put my coffee down, so you know. In the flower magic cards, we have a rose. This one, particular one is a climbing rose called Snow Goose. It's because the pictures on all of these come from our garden. So that one was taken in our garden, and it's white rose, and it's all about empowerment. Although I have to say, although the woman in the picture has a tiger with her, because, you know, who hasn't, she does look a little bit sappy, if I'm honest. She looks like she needs to be empowered. But I think roses are really, really good for empowerment, and I will read you the little ditty. Accept yourself for who you are. Know that you can then go far. Empowerment is yours to take. Step forward, it's time to awake. Take back your own power strong. Becoming a superhero won't take long. And I apologise for my dreadful poetry. But I think this card is all about you, basically. All about you and you and you. It's self-love. It's acceptance of who you are and what comes with empowerment, and that totally rocks. Relax, center yourself, take back your own power and take on the world. This is about giving yourself permission to be in charge, to totally own your own space and be in control of all that you do, all that you think and all that you say. And coming from a total utter control freak, this card's all about me. Whatever needs sorting in your life, you can tackle it. That's not all about me, because I do struggle with that quite a lot. Make it work for you. Make your voice heard. Even if it's just giving the kids a list of chores that they need to do before they get their allowance. And we do that a lot. Our children have always had to earn their allowance. We have a 15-year-old son that does all the washing up and all his own laundry. So if he doesn't do that, he doesn't get his allowance. We're strict. Make your power work for you. Accept yourself. Bring your emotions into balance. And that's never easy. And you're well on the way to empowering yourself. It is, I think, an ongoing journey. But the power of Rose can really help you with all the different facets of that. Accepting yourself for who you are is paramount to taking control of your own life and ultimately your own destiny. And you really are in control of that. Sometimes it might waver. Sometimes it might seem like you aren't, but you absolutely are in control of it all. Accepting your strengths, but also your weaknesses, will allow you to better understand not only yourself, but others. Acceptance that the world and all the humans on it are not perfect, far from it. And acceptance that you're not perfect either. Just don't tell anyone. But it's a huge step forward, and it will help you live a more peaceful and productive life. It ain't easy, but Rose can really help you with all of those different facets for it. So that's your challenge for the weekend, is to start taking on your own empowerment. Kay uses a rose hand cream where 100% of the proceeds go to a specific charity. Like it and only give to them when companies give everything they nominate to the charity. Excellent. I do use, I think all of my face products, body products now all come from independent suppliers. I get all of their soaps from Bewitched Botanicals, and all of my face creams and shampoo-y, conditioner-y stuff come from Caro's Creams. And they're all homemade, they're all supporting little independent businesses, and they all use fantastic ingredients. So yeah, I think it's a mindfulness thing, isn't it? It's about thinking about those things. Jane says, boy, do I need a white rose. This week's been all about IBS. Oh, I hear you with that, Jane. I have a bowel disease, and yep, I'm with you on that one. And toothache. Oh, no. Yeah, you need some self-care, honey. You need some self-care. Definitely. But it doesn't have to be a white rose. I think any of the roses, really, with their whole general caring, healing, supportive energy, will give you a bit of a boost. Kay says, I think every time I have passed a rose and stopped to smell the roses, it really does uplift me. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, toothaches are horrible, Melanie, aren't they? Yeah, we do. You need some self-care, Jane. Rachel says, Bewitched Botanicals Queen Mab is a beautiful rose scent. Yes, it is, isn't it? But if you do use Bewitched Botanicals, their Belladonna is their new scent, and it's amazing. Maria, I used the rose oil serum from there. Beautiful, one of your favourites. Yeah, I have body lotion, and Bewitched Botanicals do some amazing body creams. But I've got a rose one from Caro's Creams, which is lovely. You can bring in the essence and the magic of rose in so many different ways, whether it's in your facial or body products, as well as working with them magically. Christine says, open roses are great for bugs and bees. Don't forget to deadhead lots of it, encourages it to flower more. Absolutely. And actually, that one's not too bad. The handle one's got quite an open centre. But my rose, which is Rachel, which is in the back there, it's got loads and loads of flowers, and it's not so easy for the bees to get into the centre. So I think as well, for bringing that whole balance of diversity and ecosystem into the garden, does rely on having lots of different types, because different bees go to different things, different... There's someone at the door. Can you tell? I think it's about encouraging all the different insects, because hoverflies eat aphids as well. She says, trying to talk over the dog. Kay says, we link the two suppliers. Yes, we'll put the links in a second, Kay, no problem. Jane says, I do this quite shamelessly. That's what they're there for. Parcel for Eric. Yes, quite possibly. Actually, I think it's some books from my publisher for me to review. Eric sounds like a Rottweiler. He definitely has delusions of grandeur. But yes, I think you've got to bring in... Christine says he's such a good hubby. Do you hire him out? It's been an interesting year, actually, because he's been working from home this past year because of the whole, no thing. And actually, for two people to have been together 29 years and worked, his desk is next to mine, and we've worked side by side every day for the past, it's over a year now, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Year and a bit. And we're still talking to each other. So that's cool. And he's still buying me coffee. So it's got to be a good sign, hasn't it? Jane says Eric has delusions of much longer legs. Yes, he does, Jane. Absolutely. But yes, I'll put the links to Caro's Creams and Bewitched Botanicals in a sec, Kay. You'll find reviews of them on my personal blog as well. They're both really fantastic companies. But Rose, yes, soulmates for sure, Christine, absolutely. Seriously, I'm high maintenance and he hasn't killed me yet, so I'm always very thankful for that. Yeah, I'm hard work, but bless him. But yeah, roses, it is such good. I can't explain how much it is such a good all-rounder. It really is, from everything, from in the garden to magical work. But yes, the garden, if you want to get that whole balance with the ecosystem, you do need a variety of stuff. And bear in mind with the roses that the ones that have got loads and loads of flowers, like the peonies, it's not so easy for the bees and the insects to get in to collect the pollen and the nectar and pollinate them and things. You need some open ones as well. There's the Bewitched Botanicals link. Thank you very much. So make sure it's a variety of stuff to encourage as many different insects in as possible so that they can all eat the aphids. It's a whole pyramid thing, isn't it, of animals. One creature eats the next, eats the next, eats the next. So, Kay says, I love a house that laughs like you do. Life's too short for grumpy pants. I can be a grumpy pants, Kay.
Oh, yes.
I can be a serious grumpy pants, particularly dealing with the menopause. I can be evil. But we do laugh a lot. You have to laugh a lot. And he's always happy. Even at, 5 o'clock in the morning, he's cheerful. But rose, definitely good for all kinds of things. I've got a bit of history, got a bit of myth here. Romans loved their roses and would use them to decorate, to throw over the floor to make the room smell nice. And they would float them in their wine, which is quite inventive. I like the idea of that. Actually, I've done quite a lot of water magic spells where I have floated candles on the water and then floated rose petals on as well. That works really well. Roman brides and grooms both wore crowns of roses. The deities Cupid, Venus, and Bacchus are often depicted wearing crowns of roses. And if you were having a meeting, this is an interesting one. If you were having a meeting and you wanted it to be a private one, you would hang a single rose above the dining room table as a sign that anything said over the table would be kept secret. And I do wonder if that's the idea of ceiling roses, where they came from. We actually have got them in our house. We've got ceiling roses in each room. I thought that was quite interesting to know that might be where it came from. Who knows? I think it's interesting that all this stuff comes down in. But obviously the Romans loved them. And who can blame them? So they do have, Venus is depicted as wearing them as well. So she's definitely very much involved in it. But it is so useful. And it's got so much magic within it in so many different areas and different varieties, and so easy to grow and so easy to harvest. Petals, hips, leaves, thorns, all really, really useful, and all so useful in so many different ways. Kay says there's a book called The Language of Flowers from the Victorian times, really interesting. The Victorians had a whole language of flowers. I think there's a list of it in here. Just happen to have this book here. They did. They had a whole language of flowers. And whenever they gave a bouquet to someone, they would pick the flowers specifically to give a message. So each flower had a meaning to it. So depending on what flowers you had in your bouquet or received in your bouquet would be a message to you. And I'm really hoping it's in here. I'm pretty sure it is. Just quickly flicking through. Here we go. Yes, here we go. Yes. Although they've had meanings for centuries, it was the Victorians that really jumped on the bandwagon with this idea. A particular flower or the scent of one on a handkerchief could send a very important message to a suitor. It was a whole secret language devised to send messages or convey meanings in the form of flowers. So rose, again, we've got the colours brought in here. So rose is, pink rose, meant happiness, secret love, and indecision. If you received a red rose, it was all about love. If you received a white rose, it meant innocence or silence. If you received a yellow rose, it was a bit of a mixed meaning. It could either mean joy or jealousy. It's really interesting. Some of the flowers are really, some of them, like pansies, meant you are in my thoughts. Peach blossom meant I am captivated. Rhododendron, if you received a rhododendron, it meant danger. Primroses meant I can't live without you. There are some tulips. Yellow tulips meant your smile is sunshine. Some of them weren't particularly nice, though. I'm just trying to pick one out. Some of them were, yellow carnations meant disappointment. You wouldn't really want to receive that one. But yes, the Victorians had this whole language of flowers, but it is in the World of Magical Plants and Herbs. There's quite a big list in there of all the meanings. Fascinating, and I think perhaps that's where the idea of bouquets and wedding bouquets and particular flowers came as well. Very interesting. Vanessa, here's one you might like. Then I have a homemade rose mead from 2017, well matured. Oh, I bet that's nice. Karen, could you give some examples of how you use thorns? Yes, absolutely. Be careful with them when you pull them off of the plant, because obviously, they can be quite pointy, pricky. But thorns, I think really, I do use them for inscribing in candles. For me, it's about thinking about what the thorn does. So the thorn on a rose plant, or any plant really, is all about protection. It's there to stop you from attacking it. So they are brilliant for protection. So you can use them in any kind of charms or spell workings for protection. They are sharp and they're defensive. They can pierce, they can cut, and they can draw blood. So think about it from that point of view. They're the Darth Vader or Stormtrooper of the rose plant. They are very, very defensive. And I think I use them to inscribe in candles and things because it adds that it adds the magic of the rose from it as well, but it also adds that protection, and it's quite handy because they've got really tiny points and it makes carving in candles really easy. They can also be used to dispel negative energy. If you've got long thorns with long pointy sticks, particularly something like the blackthorn rather than the rose, but you can get some really big ones. They can be used to stick into poppets instead of pins. Bearing in mind that poppets aren't just for hexing and cursing, they're for all kinds of purposes. You can use thorns, the bigger ones, dipped in ink to write magical petitions or to fix magical workings. You can use thorns in magic to pierce negative bubbles, break bad cycles, bad habits, to break them. If you want to do a little thorn protection, gather together 3, 6, 9, whatever you feel, thorns, wrap them in a small piece of paper or a small piece of fabric, and then bury the little charm under the rose bush itself, and that will bring you some protection. You can do a return to sender spell with thorns if you're getting grief from someone. This isn't meant to harm the person, it's about deflecting the energy that you've sent back to them, and you can do that with a candle or a poppet. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, it can just be a potato. You need 3 thorns. Push each thorn into the poppet or the candle, one at the top, one in the heart, one in the middle. So that's the head, heart, and stomach. Light the candle and then visualize a protective barrier around yourself, and see the negative energy reflecting back. You have to think carefully before you work that one, but some cases do deserve it. Thorns work really well for healing. You can again use a candle or a poppet. Stick the thorn in the candle or the poppet in the position of the body. So if you represented with a poppet or a candle, make it look, in there's a headache, you stick it in the top. Stick the thorn in that part that actually needs healing. If the person's got stomachache, stick it in the middle. And then you visualize healing coming from Mother Earth, coming from the rose plant itself, through the thorn, and directed into that point in the body. So they're really, really useful for all kinds of things, because they've got, for me, it's thinking about how it works. So the thorn is pointy, so it directs things. It stabs things, it cuts things, it pierces things. So you can use it for any kind of magic from that point of view. Forget. Karen says, I read that book of time. Oh, thank you. Actually, I use it a lot as well, because I don't remember stuff. It falls out of my head quite easily. Jackie says, forget me nots. Don't forget me. Yep. That's, straightforward. Rhododendrons mean danger of being overwhelmed. Yeah, you've got to watch those rhododendrons. In actual fact, that does make sense, because a lot of the rhododendrons you find in the woodlands aren't native, and they do take over. They are quite thuggish. Xenia says, better learn the language of flowers before giving a bouquet of flowers to someone else. You could unknowingly offend them. Absolutely. Kay says, your kitchen witch world of plants came this week. Yes. Jackie says, do you embed the thorns into the candle afterwards? Yes. Follow your intuition on that, Jackie. You can use them just to inscribe things, or you can push them right in. Follow your intuition on there. Jane says, rose thorns are like drawing pins. They make things know their place. Perfect. That's thinking about the uses and the shape and the thinking outside the box of how it works. Absolutely. Karen said, we used to stick the rose thorns on what is our third eye when we were little. Yes. Did you stick them on your forehead to make it look like a little unicorn? Is that just me? We used to do that as a lot as kids. We would lick the flat end and stick them to our foreheads. Things we did as kids, eh? Maria says, could they be placed into a candle then burned? Yes, they burn quite well as long as they're dry. Absolutely. Xenia says, putting thorns into a witch bottle for protection alongside with nails, pins and such. Yes, they work brilliantly in witch bottles. Karen says, fab Star Wars referencing. You certainly know how to explain things in my language. You're welcome. I have a teenage son who is totally obsessed with Star Wars, so I know bits and pieces. Kay says, yes, no negative energy is deserved to be sent to anyone, so deflecting it back is okay. I think you have to make a decision if you are being abused by someone, verbally or otherwise. At some point, you reach and you know that you are absolutely allowed to protect yourself. Absolutely. Christine, could stick it into a poppet doll. Yep, absolutely. Gives me ideas for a nosy neighbour. You could use bushes with thorns, roses or blackthorns, planted along your neighbour's fence, the side where your neighbour is, Christine, from a protective point of view. Kay says, or invite them to do something you didn't want them to do. Yeah. So I've gone way over the time, like I usually do. So it's no big surprise, is it? Waffling is. It's lovely chatting with you guys. So roses, please do work with them. They are absolutely fantastic. I will put all the information up on my blog afterwards. It's going to be a fantastic weekend, people. If you're around this weekend, do join us on the Moon Books Facebook page. We have MoonCon 21 this weekend, Saturday the 5th of June, Sunday the 6th of June. I'm doing 2 talks and an interview over the weekend, along with a whole host of Moon Books authors on all different kinds of subjects. We have fairies, we have runes, we have shamanic practices, we have working with deer, we have all sorts of stuff going on at the weekend. It's absolutely free, it's open to everyone. It's on the Moon Books Facebook page. It starts at 11 a.m. tomorrow. I'm opening with my talk on the element of earth. Jackie says, can we join on Sunday? Yes, the talks will be, they're all live. Every single one of them is live throughout tomorrow and throughout Sunday, but all the talks will be available afterwards for replay. Yes, Christine, it will be on YouTube, but it won't be on YouTube until next week. They're going live on Facebook this weekend, but all of the talks will then be added to the Moonbooks YouTube channel next week. Lani says, do they have a list of times of the events on the Moonbooks page? Yes, there are lists on my Facebook page. If you scroll down, there is, if you go to the Moonbooks Facebook page, there's lists for every single talk running throughout Saturday and every single talk running throughout Sunday. Interestingly, they also have some panels as well. There's a panel on Bridget, there's a panel on Australian paganism, there's a panel on urban shamanism, all sorts of stuff going on. So it's going to be really, really interesting, absolutely free. Just hop on over and join in. Myself and Pixie Pete will be behind the scenes helping out for the whole weekend as well. So it's going to be busy, but fun. Thank you, Maria. Hugs right back at you, lovely. You're very welcome, Karen, anytime, anywhere. So glad. Yes, it's been lovely to connect with you all this weekend. Karen's in Tintagel this week. Totally jealous. Kay says, glad the replay's there. Yes, they will. All the talks will be there for replay as well. But if you join live, you'll be able to ask questions of all the speakers as well. So it'd be absolutely fab. Thank you so much, guys, as always, for joining me. I will hopefully see some of you tomorrow and Sunday and again next weekend. Have a fantastic weekend. As always, I'm here if you need to contact me. Just ping me a message and take care, everyone.